For years, I believed that my harshest critic was actually my best coach. I thought that if I didn't feel bad enough about a mistake, or if I didn't sit in with a heavy regret, I wasn't truly taking it seriously. I called it accountability. But what I've realized and what I want to share with you is that self shaming is the cleverest disguise for staying stuck. For context, I grew up in a household where tough parenting often felt more like shame parenting. I was taught to keep quiet, suppress my opinions, and let the adults do the talking. Because of that, I missed so many opportunities. I didn't have a voice because I was afraid of the shame that came with being wrong. I still remember vividly there's this one time where my teacher asked me for my opinion, and I remember I actually hyperventilated in the classroom. I was like, I couldn't let the words out. It's almost felt like, why would they wanted an opinion from someone who didn't really matter? That particular experience felt kind of jarring to me now because it could be something that is so simple to other people, but to me, it felt like a threat to actually share my opinion. And that particular shame became such a core part of me that I started seeking it in others. So when I found a partner who was actually gentle with my mistakes, I attached so strongly to them, but not just because I loved them, but because they were offering me a kindness that I literally couldn't give to myself. I think this realization of self shaming came so prominently in my adulting experiences. One of it was I remember being in a toxic workplace where accountability was just a code for the blame game. No matter how hard I worked, it was never enough. I took all the blatant criticism, I took the blame, and I was emotionally and intellectually drained. Then, thankfully, I switched to a different job with a much healthier environment. And one day I made a mistake and I was waiting for the hammer to fall. But then my manager just looked at me and said, Farhat, just use your brain power to just solve the problem. It's okay, just let's solve it together. It's fine. And I was like, okay. So that was my aha moment. At that point, I suddenly felt like, yeah, like work and mostly all things are literally not that deep. And when we spiral, we're actually wasting every single drop of our energy instead of solving the problem. And that just hit me really deep because I felt like if you're an overthinker, spiraling is like this. We're like this, especially when you're inherently not a really confident person. So such advice does go a long way. So the question is, why do we do it? Why is it so tempting to shame ourselves? Then it came to me like a brick because spiraling feels easier than facing the truth. Shaming yourself feels like you're doing something, but it's actually a way to avoid facing the hard work of owning the mistake and fixing it. Real emotional intelligence isn't about how much you can suffer for a mistake, it's about how effectively you can solve it and stand up for yourself. So if you're in that spiral right now, these are three things that helped me get out. I actually chant to myself these words: I am not my past. Then I try to live exactly like that. Your mistakes of yesterday do not define who you are today. I feel like this relates to this Quranic verse about how life is a play. If you're a Muslim, you know that this life is a test. That can mean you suffering through emotional tests, physical tests, financial tests, relationship tests. Every sort of stress will be tested against you, but just know that the Lord won't test a soul beyond what it can bear. The second tip is get sensory. When your brain is trapped in a loop, get back into your body. Take a shower, go for a walk, change your physical environment so that your thoughts have room to shift. For me, brisk walking in nature really helps. I don't need to look at the science for this. It was truly, truly effective. And there's a reason why it's so easy for us to be so attached into spiraling, especially if you're an anxious person. It just felt so easy to spiral because you get to, curl yourself up in the bed with your blanket and just sit in with the misery. While it may be helpful for you to go through your emotions, you shouldn't stay in that state for particularly long. It could only ruin you for good if you do it long enough. And I do not want you to go there, trust me. And step three, if you're a fellow Muslim or just anyone who meditates, there is something so healing about humbling yourself to a higher being. For me, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you can do it to your own God. When I prostrate, I'm acknowledging that I am human and I'm designed with flaws. It's like a reminder from God saying, "You're human. I designed you this way. The world is temporary." And it just takes the weight off of your shoulders. If you're meditating instead, I suggest you re-saying the first mantra and to just pray in whatever form you can. Just recite what do you want to feel in that particular moment. It's funny because when you think about accountability, it's actually more or less about taking care of your future self, how you'll fix yourself, and how you'll watch yourself grow. While shame is actually about the past. And in most cases, it's keeping you stuck in a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. I'm a huge believer that you do deserve the same gentleness that you give to others. So if this reflection resonated with you, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Let's all just be in our self-healing journey era, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Good night.